Hello and good morning, everybody. We are going to be going over your unit test that you have today in math. So big grade for you today in math. That's why we wanted to make sure that we go over the study guide for you guys. So if you have not already, click the link in the chat box for me. That will give you your own copy of the study guide. Also, guys, the Lockdown browser is no more. So on your test, when you go to take it today, if you take good notes in Classkick or on your own paper, wherever you want to take them, you can use those while you're taking your test. So make sure you're taking good notes today. I'll probably write, let's think, I'll write in pink today. So anything that you see me write in pink, you need to also write on your paper. It is not helpful for you to just write the answer because the numbers are different on the actual test. So if you just write the answer on your test, the answer is not the same. You need to know how you got the answer for it to be helpful. Okay, so go ahead and click the link, type your first and last name in, and you can go ahead and go to slide 2. That will be number 1. That's where we're going to start at. We'll give everybody else just a second to get logged in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'll direct everybody to the file. We're on slide 2, so go over to slide 2 in your Classkick. And I like to put the number up at the top just because the numbers are different than the slide number. So this is number 1. All right, number 1 says, as a puppy, Cricket weighed 2 1/4 pounds. At her 1-year checkup with the vet, Cricket weighed 9.5 pounds. How much weight did Cricket gain between the time she was a puppy and her 1-year checkup? Enter your answer as a decimal or a simplified mixed number. Now, they give us 2 numbers here, 2 1/4 pounds and 9.5 pounds. I notice that these are not in the same form. One is a mixed number, one is a decimal. So let's take that mixed number and get it in decimal form. Okay. So 2 ways you could do that. If you know what 1/4 is as a decimal, you could just add that to 2. So 2.25 because 1/4 equals 0.25. If you didn't know that, you could change this to an improper fraction and then divide. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 on the top is 9. Keep the denominator 9/4. That's your improper fraction. When you divide those 2 numbers, what do you get? Somebody with a calculator tell me, what's 9 divided by 4? And y'all, I'll put the online calculator in the chat box if you need it. There you go. And I'm going to turn the chat box on so you guys can change where it says to staff. Click it and make it go to the room so everybody can see your answers. Yes, the correct answer is 2.25. So 2 1/4 is the same as 2.25. So I'm going to cross out 2 1/4 and replace it with 2.25. Okay, so now I'm just working with decimals. Now, let's make sense of this question. It says, as a puppy, Cricket weighed 2.25 pounds. So that's where we're starting. Then at her 1-year checkup, she weighed 9.5 pounds. It wants to know how much weight she gained. So we're finding the difference. So that means we need to subtract. So let's take 9.5, line up our decimals, 2.25. We're going to fill in that blank space with a 0. Now, when we're subtracting, remember you put your larger number on the top. However, when we start on the far right side here, can we take 5 away from 0? If you have 0 pens, can you take 5 away? No. So we need to borrow from this 5, making it a 4, giving the 1 to that 0. So now we have 10 minus 5, and that leaves us with 5. Then take 2 away from 4, you're left with 2. Bring your decimal down. Take 2 away from 9, you're left with 7. So the correct answer here is 7.25, or B. Very good, Annabelle and Zachary. Y'all make sure you write that down. Remember, anything I'm writing in pink, you need to also write in your notes. Again, it will not be helpful for you just to circle the answer, because the answer is not the same on the test because you have different numbers. So you need to write these notes down so you know how you got the answer. All right, are there any questions on number 1? Before we move on, y'all remember, once we move on to the next slide, it deletes all of this work on my screen. So I won't be able to go back, but you can watch the recording when we're finished if you need to. Okay, Kaden, that's fine. All right, go to slide 3 for me. This is going to be number 2. If you want to write that at the top of your slide, or if you're writing on your own paper, it might be helpful for you to write the number. It says solve for x. -3 times x minus 6 equals 63. So remember, when there's a number outside of the parentheses, we need to distribute that number to both of the numbers on the inside of the parentheses. So the first one's easy, right? -3 times x just gives us -3x. Then -3 times -6, what would that be? Negative times a negative is a positive. Very good, Zachary and Deuce. Positive 18, so plus 18. Then copy the rest of your problem down, equals 63. So we've got -3x plus 18 equals 63. Now remember, our whole goal for this problem is to get x by itself. And to do that, we need to move everything else to the other side of the equal sign. And so if we draw our line here, we're going to move that 18 first. Very good. Zach's telling us in the chat box we need to subtract 18 on both sides. And when we do that, it cancels out on the left side, so we can cross that out. We're left with -3x, so you can bring that down. And then we need to subtract. So somebody tell me what's 63 minus 18. I have drank all my coffee. I'm doomed. Good, Annabelle, it is 45, so we'll write that right here. Good, Bella and Deuce. Good, Zach. Madeline, yep. Okay, now what do y'all think we need to do? We've got -3 stuck to that x, which means it's being multiplied. How do we undo multiplication? Good, division. So let's divide by -3. We're left with x over here. Since we have a positive divided by a negative, we know our answer will be negative, so you can go ahead and write that. And what is 45 divided by 3? Very good. Our answer is -15, or B. All right, give you just a second to get that written down. If you're just logging in, we're doing the study guide for your unit test that you have today. So that's a 5.21 unit test. The class Kick link is at the top of the chat box if you would like to write on there, or you can write on your own paper. It may be easier to write on your own paper just so you don't have to go back and forth between ClassKick and my screen, but whichever one you want to do is fine. All right, let's move on to slide number 4. This will be number 3 on the study guide. So if you're writing on your own paper, write number 3. Good, Caden. And Caden, for the one that you missed, you can just watch the recording. It says solve for x. X plus negative 3.6 equals negative 8.69. So the goal's the same here. We want to get that x by itself. So currently we have a negative 3.6. To undo that, we need a positive 3.6. So we're going to add plus 3.6. Cancels it out on this side, and we're left with x. And y'all tell me what is, we have a negative and a positive number, so we're finding the difference. We need to subtract instead of add. So what's 8.69 minus 3.6? Hi, KJ. Make sure you're writing your notes down. We know it's going to be negative. That's okay. KJ, the link's at the top of the chat box, and we're on slide 4. You can pick up where we are. What would y'all get? Negative 8.69 plus 3.6, or you could type it in 8.69 minus 3.6. Good, Annabelle. Negative 5.09. Good, Bella and Christina. Great job. Good, Deuce. Okay, give you just a second. When you're done, you can go ahead to slide 5. Okay, moving along, here's slide 5. We've got a word problem. And I'm going to write number 4 at the top. Okay, so let's look at this word problem. It says city planners are planning to build a new community pool. They agree that the pool will be rectangular in shape, but the proposed dimensions have changed. So I would like to stop right there. Since they tell us we're using a rectangle, I like to go ahead and draw my rectangle. Okay. Caden, we're going to do all of them, but the very last one. We won't do that one because it's from your TGA. So 10 slides, technically, because the first slide doesn't have anything on it. So draw yourself a rectangle. Then it says, at the most recent meeting, it was determined that the width would remain at 12.3. So let's go ahead and write the width here on the small side, 12.3. But the length would increase by 4.3 meters. So since we do not know the length, we're going to use a variable. Let's just use L to represent length. And then it says that it's going to increase by 4.3. So do y'all think we're going to add 4.3 or subtract if it increases? Very good, Dwayne. So you need to write L plus 4.3. Okay, that's what we need to use for our length because we don't know what the length is. So we use a variable. Annika, that's okay. We're going over our Unit 5 study guide. The link is up at the top of the chat box, and we're on slide 5 if you want to pick up with us. Okay, and then they tell us now the pool will cover an area of 213.65 square meters. So they tell us the total area. Now, before we start doing anything here, does anybody know what the formula is for area? area equals what? Close, Annabelle. Take off the height. Because a rectangle doesn't have a height. Yes, area equals length times width. If you did not know that, you might need to write that note down on your paper. Area equals length times width. So let's use that to write our equation. So area is the total area, and they told us that the total is 213.65. Okay, that's what it's equal to. No, it's okay as long as you know what it is. So our total is 213.65. On the other side of the equal sign, we're multiplying the width and the length together. Okay, doesn't matter what order. So we just need it to make sense. Since length plus 4.3 is not just one thing, we want to put that in parentheses and put our width on the outside. So our width is 12.3. And to multiply that times the length, we're going to just put it in parentheses. So L plus 4.3. Okay. And do y'all see an answer over there that matches that? A, B, or C? Exactly. Good. A would be the correct answer. Okay, a couple more seconds to write that down. And we will move on. This is slide 6, which means it is number 5. It says, what's the value of x? So we're just solving for x for this one. So we have 12x minus 4 equals 32. We need to get that 4 to the other side. So since it's currently being subtracted, what's the opposite of that? Good, Zach. We need to add 4. Cancels it out on this side. We're left with 12x equals what? Was 32 plus 4? Good, 36. Now we have 12 and x being multiplied. To undo that, we divide. Good, Zach. And we're left with x equals what? Very good. Zach is killing it today. Awesome job, Zachary. So x equals 3. Okay, any questions so far? Are we good? Zach math. All right, let's move on then to slide number 7. This is number 6, slide 7. So I'm going to write a 6 up here. That is the number that it correlates with on your actual test. So for this one, you're not doing any math. It just wants you to represent this statement that they give you with an equation. Okay, remember, and to do that, we just break down the statement that they give us. So it says, oh, hang on, somebody's calling me. There we go. 7 times, so we'll underline that. The sum of, that tells us something's being added. KJ, stay on topic. 3 and a number, that tells us something else, is 49. That means equals 49. Okay, so 7 times the sum of 3 and a number. So 3 and a number are being added. Then it says 7 times that. So we need to put that in parentheses and put a 7 on the outside. It says is 49 means equals 49. Do y'all see an answer that matches that? Very good. C. And you might notice that what's in the parentheses is in the opposite order. That is totally fine. As long as they're both in there and they're both being added, it doesn't matter what order they're in. Wake my dog up. So just remember on these problems, underline each section of the statement that they give you, and that'll help you answer which equation is correct. All right, moving on. Here's slide 8. This will be number 7. And it says solve for x. Negative 1/3 x equals 3/4. So x is currently being multiplied by negative 1/3. So what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So divided by negative 1/3. Now we've got fractions. What is the acronym that we use to change division to multiplication for fractions? Who remembers what it's called? Reminds me of a chicken restaurant. Yes, KCF, or keep, change, flip. So we're going to take our equation, 3/4 divided by negative 1/3, and change it. Use it, keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep 3/4, change to multiplication, and flip our fraction to 3/1. Now we can just multiply straight across. Since we have a positive times a negative, we know our answer will be negative. Across the top, 3 times 3 is 9. Across the bottom, 4 times 1 is 4. KJ, stay on topic. Okay. Now, do you guys see an answer choice that is negative 9/4? Is that one of your answer choices? No. So what can we do to change that to a mixed number? Divide, long division, very good. So how many times can 4 go into 9? Twice, very good. 4 times 2 is 8. When you subtract, you have 1 left over, so that gives us negative 2 and 1/4. Now I do see that one. It is D. Great job, y'all. Give you just a second to write that one down. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is slide 9. We've got 2, 3 more problems. Slide 9 means that it is number 8. Number 8 says, solve for x. 4 times x plus 1 1/3 equals 9 2/3. So we need to distribute this 4 to both numbers inside the parentheses. So 4 times x is easy. That gives us 4x. However, 4 times 1 1/3 is not a very nice looking problem. So we need to make 4 a fraction to be able to multiply. So 4 is the same as 4 over 1. And we want to change 1 1/3 to an improper fraction. So to do that, you do 3 times 1 is 3, plus the numerator of 1 is 4. So 1 1/3 is the same as 4/3. Now we can multiply. Across the top, 4 times 4 is 16. 1 times 3 is 3. So 4 times 1 1/3 is 16/3. So plus 16/3 equals 9 2/3. Let's change 9 2/3 to an improper fraction as well. And when we do that, 9 times 3 is 27, plus 2 is 29. So 29 over 3. And we'll plug that into our problem. So we've got 4x plus 16/3 equals 29/3, which is good because our denominators are the same, which means it will make adding and subtracting fractions easy. Okay, so the goal's still the same. Get x by itself. We need to move 16/3. Since it's currently being added, how do we undo it? Subtract it. Very good. So we're going to subtract 16/3. That cancels it out. On this side, we're left with 4x. And on the top of those fractions, what's 29 minus 16? (29 minus 16). Good, Deuce. It is 13 on the top. Keep the denominator of 3. So now we're left with 4x equals 13/3. That x is currently being multiplied by 4. How do we undo that? How do we get rid of that 4 that's with the x? Divide. Very good, Annabelle. So divided by 4. But remember, we don't like to divide fractions. What's the rule that we use to change it to multiplication? Very good. Keep, change, flip. So that would give us 13/3. We keep that. Change division to multiplication and flip our fraction. So currently 4 is the same as 4 over 1. So if we flip that, we get 1 over 4. And 13 times 1 is 13 on the top. 3 times 4 is 12 on the bottom. Now, do you guys see 13/12 as an answer choice? No, so we need to do what? What do we need to do with that improper fraction? We need to divide it. Good, Madeline. So how many times can 12 go into 13? Just once. That's 12. When you subtract, you're left with 1. So that gives us 1 and 1/12. So the correct answer is B. I'm going to leave that up there for just a second. I know that one was a little bit longer than the other ones. Does anybody have any questions so far? If you do, you can always just put it in the chat box and I'll see it. Noha asked what happened to the 1. We changed that 1 1/3 to an improper fraction. So I'll put it up here at the top. 1 1/3 is the same as 4/3. That's where that number came from. So that would be 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 on the top gives you 4. 4/3. So 1 1/3 is the same thing as 4/3. Yep, we just wanted to change it to an improper fraction so that we had 2 fractions instead of 1 fraction and 1 mixed number. All right, is anybody still writing? Are we good to move on? You're welcome. All right, we got 2 more. Here is slide 10. This is number 9. Again, for this one, we have to model. However, it asks us what the number is. So we have to model the equation and then solve it. Okay, so let's break down the statement first. It says the sum of, that tells us we're going to add something, 5 and twice a number. So I'm actually going to put underline 5.5 and then twice a number. Now, twice a number is 2x because we don't know what the number is. We just know that it's 2 times some number. Okay, and then is 10 means equals 10 or negative 10, sorry. Okay, so it says the sum of 5.5 and twice a number. So that's 5.5 plus twice a number, which is 2x, equals negative 10. So that is the equation you would write. Now we need to solve it. So to solve it, we need to move that 5.5. It's currently being added. So what do we do to move it to the other side? Good, Zach, subtract. So we're going to subtract 5.5. And when we do that, you're actually adding another negative. So that gives you negative 15.5. Because you use keep, change, change since you're subtracting with a negative number. So keep negative 10, change to plus, change to negative. So negative 10 plus negative 5.5. Okay, bring down the rest, which is 2x. So we got 2x equals negative 15.5. Currently, the x is being multiplied by 2. How do we undo that? Very good, Annabelle and Zachary. Divide by 2. Good, Bella. So that cancels it out over there. We're left with x. And y'all tell me what you get. 15.5 divided by 2. Since it's negative, we're going to put that in our answer. Very good, Zach. Negative 7.75. So A. Good, Christina. Deuce, Bella. Great job. Get that down. We're about to move on to our last one, which is number 10. We're not going to do slide 12 together because that is a problem from your TGA, not your test. All right, last one here. This is slide 11, which means that it is number 10. And it is a word problem. And don't let this be tricky. Okay, if you don't read it and make sense of it, it can be tricky. But let's make sense of it together. It says the temperature of a substance in an experiment changes by negative 7.5 degrees from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that means from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., the temperature drops 7.5 degrees. At 5 p.m., the temperature is 43.5. It is 1/3 of what the temperature was at 2 p.m. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is figure out what the temperature was at 2 p.m. And it says that at 2 p.m. it was 1/3. The temperature was 43.5, which was 1/3 of what it was at 2 p.m. So since it was only 1/3 of what it was at 2 p.m., we need to multiply that number times 3, because 1/3, to see what the original temperature was at 2 p.m. So take 43.5, and we need to multiply that times 3. And y'all tell me what you get. $43.5 times 3. Good, Christina. It is 130.5. So a hot day, right? 130 is very hot. And we're going to put at 2 p.m. So this was the temperature at 2 p.m. However, it wants to know the temperature at 8 a.m. So let's go back to the beginning of our problem. It says the temperature changed, or the temperature, we should say the temperature dropped by 7.5 degrees from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So this 2 p.m. degrees, 130.5, is 7.5 degrees less than it was at 8 a.m. So if that's what it was, 7.5 degrees less, we need to add that 7.5 degrees back to see what it was before it dropped that 7.5 degrees. So y'all add that together and tell me what you get. $130.5 plus 7.5. What would you get? Very good, Bella, Madeline, Christina, Deuce. Yes, the temperature was 138 degrees at 8 a.m. So that would be our answer, D. All right, once you have that written down, you're good to go if you don't have any questions for me.